Okay, Enslaved now. Enslaved was the one I was looking forward to the most. Out of Naruto Shippuden 2, out of Sonic 4, I was looking forward to this one the most. And it was good. Before I say anything else, this game was good. But I found it the biggest disappointment out of all three that I played this week. Now let me go over the story first. This is a future world. It's set in the real world, but it's in the future. The machines have taken over. Someone's made machines to help protect the world, to make it a better place, a la Terminator, but they rebelled. And pretty much the world was wiped out. They took over, they saw, they came, they conquered, and they enslaved humanity, what was left of it. There was a few remaining, one being Monkey. That is his name. Well, it's not his real name, but it's the name he goes by. And couldn't you think of anything better? Okay, it's not the worst, but Monkey. He's trapped in this ship. Presumably he's going to be enslaved. And he sees this woman escaping from her pod and heading to an escape pod, and the ship is crash landing fast. So you've got to get out of there. When you get to her escape pod, you're outside. Now, this guy is built like Brock Lesnar. And if you don't know who Brock Lesnar is, Google it right now. I swear to God, that's who he's made of. That's who he's based on. Because he climbs all this stuff. He climbs outside, climbs on the wings, and he gets onto the escape pod. He doesn't get into the escape pod that she's in. He gets on top of it, and she launches it anyway. And they launch from near enough where a full-grown building, that big, onto the ground, and not a scratch on him, barely a scratch. He's knocked unconscious though, and when he gains conscience, he sees this woman and he has a headband on. And he's like, "You put this on me?" And she's like, "Yes." "Get this thing off me. I'm not joking. I'll break your neck." And she goes, "Command stop." And he feels a large amount of pain. He's really in pain. And she stops it. And then she explains, "I need your help. And you've got to get me back home, or I'm not going to make it by myself. And that headband you're wearing will kill you the moment my heart stops beating, for any reason." So, and then, I'm sure everybody's heard this line by now, but if I die, you die. So, the story is pretty simple. You need to get Trip, that's her name, I know. You get Trip, and you've got to get her from point A to point B to point C to point D. This is really good. It's simple, but you're creating a good story at the same time, and you're showing off the decaying ruins of New York. And let me tell you, one thing that you have to do in a story is make it believable. And I was hooked from the very start. This was a very believable world. It's simple, but it really does look like the machines took over. It looks like there was a panic. It looks like there was a mad rush. It really does look like a believable world. And the plant life has completely taken over again. Very good. if anything, the plant life seems to have taken over a little too much. I'm not sure. Like, it was supposed to be 200 years, but it's a small complaint, but it looks believable. And they were I was hooked in from the very start. This world was very believable. So you keep journeying along, and it's kind of like after the second battle, I have my first complaint of this game. The combat. The combat, it's not bad, but it's not challenging. Pretty much all you need to do is hit square. Tap, 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 square. And then finish it off with just simply pressing triangle. Square 3 times, triangle. It's button bashing. I had no thought process. Like, the enemies can guard, but there's no real punishment for, like, keep hitting them. There's no real punishment for that. If you keep hitting them, they just keep blocking, and then you just got sort of go, well, I'll change my strategy now. And sometimes they lower their guard, and you can hit them anyway. So the combat is pretty much just that: square, 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 triangle. Sometimes you mix it up a little, but it's kind of disappointing, I've got to say. Now, soon after this, my second complaint. You collect red orbs to upgrade your weaponry and your abilities throughout the game. And you've got to collect these orbs whenever you can. I think there's a set number throughout the game. Even in the enemies, you collect some in the enemies. Now here's the problem. There's some sections where you have to sneak past the enemies. First time you do it, you get a trophy. Okay. Do you know what I did after I got that trophy? I went back and attacked the enemies that were sleeping. Goes against the whole we'll sneak past them. I mean, they make these guys out to be unbeatable. They are unstoppable. They're killing machines, quite literally, and you can't do anything about them. And it's not. They're easy. Maybe a little more difficult in hard mode, but to be honest, I don't think it would be that impossible to defeat every single enemy in the game without losing a life. I honestly think I lost once trying to take on as many enemies as possible, and I could have probably used a health pack, but I didn't really want to. I couldn't be arsed because I knew I would just hit the checkpoint that I just hit, which goes against the sort of, it goes against all gaming. And I know I shouldn't, but I really didn't. I kind of felt like starting over a bit because I lost a lot of health, and you shouldn't do that in a game. You can't say, oh well, I'll just reset and I'll gain most of my health that way. You shouldn't do that in a game. But I got lazy, and usually I don't do it, but in this game I kind of did. If you were rewarded for sneaking past enemies, fine. In fact, perfect example. Devil May Cry, specifically 3. When you're in that game, you can get through the game pretty easily. Well, I say easily, but you can pretty much just tap triangle, tap 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 against most of the enemies. Bosses may be excluded, but you can just pretty much get around the game by tapping triangle all the time. It'll work, but here's the thing. At the end of the level, you're marked on your stylish points. How fast you got through the game. Number of factors. But if you're not doing the stylish points, if you even ignore the enemies, it's going to hurt you. You might get a really low rank like D, and the game will punish you by giving you less orbs for upgrades, and later on it's going to become a hassle That is a great system. I never truly appreciated that system until I played Enslaved. Well, you're not really punished for losing or anything like that. In Devil May Cry, if you lose, you get punished by losing out on orbs at the end. And it's a great system. It's a brilliant system. Simple, and yet it works. Because if you don't do all this stuff just now, it's going to be a harder battle later on. So you may as well do it, and do it right. Enslaved doesn't do that. So let me get on to my biggest problem now. The second half. By the time you reach the second half, it's a drag. The story falls flat. Well, it doesn't fall flat, but yeah. The problem with the second half is Pigsley. Yes, the character called Pigsley. How do I explain this character? He lightens up the place too much. And he's obviously a bad guy without being a bad guy. At some point, Pigsley asks Monkey, is Trip looking for anybody? Because I've always had my eye on her. And he gets shot down. And he's quite visibly disturbed by this. And later on, he throws Monkey into this pit where a rhino boss is waiting. And it's a tough boss, and and after that, Trip gets kidnapped by this thing, and Monkey goes after him. Goes after her, and when you catch her, the rhino explodes, and Pigsley's looking on like ha ha ha, laughing, ha ha ha, sees Monkey and Trip and goes, ugh. Looks disappointed. Even has that shadow effect. The dark shadow effect on his face. He looks like he didn't want Trip and Monkey to survive. Now, here's the problem. At the end of the game, they don't do anything with Pigsley. It's supposed to be a game where Pigsley's obviously a bad guy. Quite obviously a bad guy. And at the end, he was supposed to go, you know what? I'm turning. I am joining the machines. I'm going to help the machines. Trip, if you only just followed me, if you only loved me, I wouldn't have done this. This is your fault, Trip. And probably would have made for an even better ending. The problem is, they don't even do this. Pigsley's quite obviously a bad guy. And at the end, he sacrifices himself. Now, okay. I can kind of see why you want it to be a sort of double twist ending where, aha, he's going to be a bad guy. Aha, fooled you. But it doesn't work, is what I'm saying. Actually, I'm reaching... I'll be back. Part 2.